Hi everyone, welcome back, and we're going to be reviewing Assassin's Creed Renaissance. So I am doing a series on my channel where I am going through all the Assassin's Creed books and play the game themselves and tell you my thoughts and opinions on the books as well as the games. I have reviewed The Secret Crusade. I will link it up there somewhere. If you want to check that video out, check it out, and you can come back here or watch it after this video. This book follows Ezio, and it's the first game in the trilogy. So there is Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Revelation. Those three games are in book form, and this is book 1 of 3. And I am planning to go through all of them. I'm actually currently going through book 2, which is Brotherhood. So let's talk about this book. To start off with, it is one of the most grueling books I ever gotten through, and it's very different in writing style to the first book, which led me to find out that Oliver Bowden, it's a pen name, and it's written by 2 different people, and it shows. However, this book made me very frustrated because it got rid of so many scenes in the game that I thought it was so funny and so wacky and so comical that it's not written in the books. I did not understand why it was not written in the book. When it was written, it just felt like very censored, and I was wondering why on earth is it censored. It made a lot of like vulgar references, and it's great because it's done in a very comedical way, which is beautiful in the game. In the book, they did the opposite. It's very censored, and I was like, where on earth is this? When I found the swear words and the language that in the game was said in the books, it barely mentions it. It mentioned like once or twice, and that's about it. And it's not even in the right places. It felt like he didn't watch the game or played it or any of that sort. It felt like someone just told him, and he totally forgot what it was about and then just wrote something different in the books. I do not recommend reading this book if you are a big fan of the franchise, especially the Ezio trilogy, because it will just make you not like the author at all. I definitely don't recommend people reading this, even though it gives really great lore to the targets that Ezio kills and what you learn from them, and a little bit extra lore about the people around Ezio's life, which I thought was brilliant. But like I said again, it takes away so much of the comedy, the satire, the level of extremes that this book goes through. And it does hold some of that in, but it's very censored. And I was wondering why on earth it was so censored. It didn't make sense. And the other thing is that this book has so many scenes from the game completely altered. Like, for example, there was a scene where Ezio killed his first target, and what happened was, like, apparently in the book's description it says Ezio went and collected something from the person's dead body, which is a letter. And when he goes to pick up this letter, it's described to Ezio going back to this tree. And I was like, where did this tree come from? I don't recall seeing Ezio being near a tree. And I flicked through the previous pages and I tried to look through a lot. Nowhere it's mentioned, so I was very confused why this was the case. This book's publication edition is from 2009. So this was from the year it was published. And let me just say, I feel like there must be some errors being made, because there were so many moments like that where it says that Ezio's gone to a tree. There was no tree mentioned previously, so I was like, I'm clearly missing something. And this book happens to have a lot of that throughout the book. There's so many alterations that this book had in the sense of scenes. There were so many scenes that changed to the point that it felt like I was not reading the Assassin's Creed book. It felt like I'm reading another book that is completely irrelevant to the Assassin's Creed series, to the point that the logo and the name of the book just didn't seem like it belonged there. And that's what made this book down to, I feel like, a good solid 3 out of 10. It had the information I was after, but the rest of the book, it was useless. Like, why is it there? And we'll talk about the game in a minute because I loved the game, but the book version is just But I will say it did give me a better timeline lore of Ezio's love interest, which brings me to my next really big point of Ezio's life. In the game, it makes it very clear that Ezio is a very complicated character. In the game, it talks about how, and we see that Ezio has a romantic life, an assassin's life, and a social one, because he's kind of getting with the ladies. but he's also a very tough man because he was betrayed. It's not a big shock that this book has it. It does mention it from the very beginning, as the game did the same thing. However, from the rest of the book, it's kind of like we lost the romance aspect of it. So it does bring up Christina, which is his love interest. I thought it was beautiful. I liked those scenes, but it was only a page or two it gets brought up. I would say in total would be roughly 10 pages, and that's not fair. That's not a lot of justice. We don't get any explicit details between Ezio and Christina at all. We haven't even gotten to the next person in line for the love interest story. And then we have the second love interest, which is Caterina, and she is a force to be reckoned with. But this book makes it so censored to the point that a lot of these scenes that she's played in, and if you played the game, you would know the biggest comedy level of force that this woman has. It was worth every moment of the game, but the book for some reason does not illustrate that same impact that the game had. There's another scene where, for example, Ezio and his mum was talking, and Maria, which is Ezio's mum's name, says to Ezio, you need to have a better outlet than what you're doing. And Ezio goes, I have a good outlet. Then she turns around and says, besides vaginas and fighting, and Ezio's like, Mom, no. And that is the point of a very funny comedy scene, but we don't get that in the book. So what I said earlier is the game scene. This is the book scene version of it. You should find out an outlet yourself, my dear. Ezio was banquet. I have plenty of outlets. I mean, apart from Tarts. Okay. Resorted to his matter-of-factly, Mother, but Maria only answered was a shrug and a pursing of her lips. That is the scene? Tarts? I'm like, I don't understand. Why are you censoring this word? Like, say what she actually said on the game. Because that is the point. It's meant to land. It's very outlandish, especially for my parent. And I thought it was so good. But this book doesn't have it. I don't understand. And I will insert on the screen the other scene where the woman, Caterina, talking back. Well, these two brothers that took two of her kids. And it's beyond my level of understanding, because it's like, why would you not have that in there? I don't understand. Anyways, and this book just took so much and just changed it. This is too censored. And I do not like that one bit. Like I said again, it's a 3 out of 10. I will only keep it because I have some really good things I want to explore more in depth. There was this scene in this book where I've marked where we find out about this crazy fanatic priest who stole a weapon, which is the Apple of Eden, and he went crazy with it. And he went mad, of course. But as he was getting burnt at the stake, because the people were like, you are lying, you're being a very terrible person, you're forcing us to do things we've already done, and yet you keep telling us to do the same thing, you are a madman. And he was at the stake, and in the game he speaks in the Italian language, but in the book version it spoke English, so you actually see what he says. And I thought it was such a profound impact that it had on me, because he finally realized at the very end the weapon was taken away from him. The people were against him, shoved him on the stake and saying that you're going to burn because you are a heretic. And of course, if you read that specific scene yourself, you would learn a lot about why they were doing that. The game does show it more in depth, but not as in depth as this book is giving it. And the scene the priest says is that he realizes what he has done wrong, and he confessed. He sort of like repents in front of the people, because he realizes what he'd done and the madness that he has created. And I thought that was a beautiful symbology of showing like this mad person think he has all the power, and when that power got stripped away from him, he finally gets humbled by the people, because the people is like, you have no power here, we're going to show you, we're going to humble you real quick. And that's when he finally realized that he was still a madman, but he kind of realized that response. And there's a lot of things I want to go in more in depth looked into this character because he is such an interesting person. I was told, however, that he's based on a real person in real life. I have not made that research myself yet, but I am planning to because that man is really interesting. I call him the Fanatic Monk because that's how I remember him. It's really dark, but I thought this book, in-depth lore of who he is more interesting in the sense of what he says, what he's doing, and how the people responded to him. So that being said, I gave it a 3 out of 10. It's not really worth reading it. I'd rather just Google the answers and the lore and have to read that than this book. It's not worth your time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!